you don't want to give people health care. You don't want to give people Medicare for all. You don't want to give them the fact that if they have to have an abortion or any kind of prenatal care, it could actually bankrupt them. And at the same time, if you do that, we're going to give the rapists the ability to sue you or to sue your family. What is this? The fuck is this? 2022. This is not the conversation we should be having. So I think this is a rough outline of some of the worst places to be, I guess, in the United States for the current time being. You know what's fucked about what he was saying, or what like a lot of people have been saying about this, is this whole idea of, you know, it really feels like the right has not been secretive about any of this. They've been, you know, very forthcoming about their desire to restrict bodily autonomy based on their perverse and bizarre interpretation of Christian texts written thousands of years ago. And it's this really fucked up moment in history. And Sam's right in that, like, every single June you're going to see, as long as the Supreme Court is dominated by right-wing Christian theological Puritans, a whole bunch of decisions being cast down that affect every single American's lives in one way or another, and on a regular, repeated basis. It's just consistently going to be something that the overwhelming majority of the population doesn't seem to be in line with, doesn't seem to want to move in that direction, and yet they are able to govern. It's this really fucked up thing, because I know a lot of people throw the word like fascism around and fascists, but I think people need to also recognize historically things like fascist movements. They weren't the majority of the population. They weren't the majority of people at the start of those movements. They were usually a minority of very far right individuals, usually racist individuals as well, who all of a sudden are tolerated for a long time. And that's one of the big fucked up things about all this, is tolerating this shit, or just letting it pass by, or just doing a simple like, hey, just vote. You know, this is going to be a midterms issue. If you just vote, we can get rid of this. But in the meantime, we should be tolerating this fucking far right Christian fascism, because they're being very clear about their goals and ambitions, whether it is legislating trans people out of existence, controlling people's bodily autonomy, reverting us into the fucking medieval Stone Age in terms of people's reproductive rights, or even just the rights of people in general. This shit is absolutely fucked. You know what, like, fucking infuriates me about all this is that it's this argument that, yes, we care deeply about the sanctity of life, that this is so important to us. At the same time, every single measure that you could be doing to reducing the amount of abortions that take place, you also want to restrict. You also want to ban birth control. You also don't want to do sexual education. You want to promote things like abstinence only, which has shown itself not to work. And so you're doing this double fucking whammy where, I mean, it really, really fucking sucks, because women are caught in the middle of all this. And it's like, on the one end, yeah, you can't have access to the things that may prevent pregnancies, like contraception, because that is sin. And we're not going to do sexual education because that could promote promiscuity for some reason, even though all the stats and data on this shows that it has the opposite effect. It reduces the amount of teen pregnancies that you're going to have. And on the other end, especially if you live in fucking America, hey, we're not only going to restrict your ability to have an abortion under very select cases, and even then, the most grisly shit comes out of their mouth. It's stuff like, hey, we might make exceptions for rape or incest. It's like, you might make exceptions if someone is fucking raped against their will, where they had absolutely no say in the matter, and then they have absolutely no say after the fact what happens to them. They have to sit there for 9 months while the memory of that rape grows inside their fucking bodies. That is grisly. Why is that the way that it has to be phrased? Like, I can't get over this. And just time and time again, the whole thing comes down to like, hey, ultimately, this is to protect the sanctity of life. Once the kid is born, we don't give a fuck. Once they're outside of the womb, well, yeah, you're on your own. We're not going to provide any kind of measures to help you, especially if you're disproportionately unable to afford access to things like healthcare, education, any of that. Fuck all that noise. We don't care about the living. We care about the pre-birth. The pre-birth is the only thing we're going to legislate for. And then afterwards, fuck you. And also, if you're in America, hey, if you have to have a birth, it's gonna be fucking very expensive. That shit might bankrupt you. You don't have the money it takes to go to a hospital and have a safe birth. And on top of that, stats show that you're not actually even gonna stop abortions. All you're doing is removing access to safe abortions. That's it. People are still gonna seek it. They're just gonna be more dangerous in the future. They're just gonna go out there and potentially have to risk their lives to be able to have autonomy over their own bodies. Not even mentioning the fact that a lot of people who are pregnant end up having miscarriages. Are miscarriages suddenly going to be considered part of this discussion? Are miscarriages suddenly going to be considered, what, is that God's abortion? Is that a part of it? Or are those people committing a criminal act? Did a woman do everything in her right to be able to protect that kid from being miscarried? Well, why don't we look into it? Why don't we track what she'd been doing? Why don't we track what the apps that she's been using have been saying? Has she been eating properly? I mean, we have to investigate that as well, because maybe that played into the entire thing. I don't know. By the way, delete those apps. If you have apps that like track menstrual cycles or anything like that, delete that shit. It's not safe anymore. This is the world we live in now. This is the fucking 2022. We have the technology to do amazing, incredible things. We have the sum total of human knowledge in our fucking pockets 24/7, and at the same time, if you use an app and they want to sell your data to a third party, hell, maybe that could result in some kind of, I don't know, criminal investigation into you for not doing everything in your power to maintain the birth that we're forcing you to have. You don't want to give people healthcare. You don't want to give people Medicare for all. You don't want to give them the fact that if they have to have an abortion or any kind of prenatal care, it could actually fucking bankrupt them. And at the same time, if you do that, we're going to give the rapists the ability to sue you or to sue your family. What is this? The fuck is this? 2022. This is not the conversation we should be having. This is so far, like, it's just like Christian fucking far-right individuals ruling by a minority have overtaken legislative bodies in the US, whether that be at the state level or in the Supreme Court, and they're ruling against the wishes of the majority of the American people, and they're winning, and that's the fucked up thing. So no, it's not the time to sit back and just listen to Joe Biden as he's like, well, this is going to be an important issue come the midterms. Yes, it is. By all means, please don't vote for Republicans, because they seem to be utterly and completely fucked. But at the same time, there has to be a dramatic call to what the fuckery is going on. There has to be people on the streets demanding fundamental changes to the system itself that allows this to happen, because the right and the far right, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop doing this, and they have shown that they have the power to enact this kind of stuff even if they don't control all the branches of government. That no longer matters, and they're very fucking effective at this. They're effective, they're organized, and they're spending lots and lots of money to make sure this continues. And at the same time, they're trying to control other aspects of the media in order to flood you with the idea that, hey, this isn't as bad as it sounds, or this might not be as extreme as it is, but it is, and it should be recognized for what it is, because we have people on the streets who are targeting like LGBTQ+ and are openly calling themselves Christian fascists. John Doyle is fine walking out on the street with a megaphone, yelling at children, telling them that their parents are trying to cut their dicks off, and saying that he's openly a Christian fascist. This is not like the time to be like, wow, this could be pretty bad in a couple years. This shit is here and now, and they are fucking ruling as a minority, and that shit is fucked up. People need to organize against this. Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback, because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we are prepared to embark on a mighty jihad in your name. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble jester, attempting in vain to get you to laugh. To our valiant knights of the Round Table, Benji Arnie, Tech Tink, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Mayred, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood. It doesn't matter what I believe, it only matters what I can prove. Egbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Jenna Tao, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevbot, EXE, Brian Ephraim, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Saren 42, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Agent NDN, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our mugs and salute our brave heroes off to another glorious conquest.